Hey, Super Cruisers, it's Kevin and Frank from Cruising with Wheels.
Today it's all about knowing key cruise line policies.
It's important to research the cruise lines you are interested in and compare their cruise policies. It could make the difference in who you book with, ultimately.
That's right. So let's get started with our list. Who's first on the list?
Well, first on our list is that you need to know the policy regarding smoking, vaping, and tobacco items. Very often, the cruise lines will have different policies on this. Some cruise lines have gone to smokeless ships.
Right.
There is an area in every ship that allows smoking, where it's specified that you will smoke or vape.
And this is a policy, I would say, that is for both smokers and non-smokers.
Correct.
Because if you're, there's a cruise ship, and let's say the casino, it's considered smoking. Mm-hmm. And you're like, oh, I can't do that. But then there are ships that actually are putting up partitions and making the casino two separate casinos.
Two sections.
Yeah, one for smoking and one not for smoking. And so, pick one that's best for you. So whichever camp you're in.
Speaking of smoking, let's talk about another article of smoking paraphernalia.
Marijuana. Now, it might be legal from where you are and where you live, but it is not legal on board the ship.
Right.
Okay, so I brought my pot.
And that'll include medical marijuana in most instances as well. Another key item that you should consider when you are looking at who you're going to book with and their policies is know the daily tipping gratuities per person, per day that you will be charged. Mm-hmm. Remember that it's per person, per day.
That's right. You don't want to be surprised at the end of the cruise when the bill comes and you're like, what is all of this money? What is that? And you are unaware of the gratuity charges. And different cruise lines are different amounts.
Differently.
Right. And in some cases, as we know, as we're filming right now, some cruise lines are increasing their daily gratuity charges. And in some cruise lines, you can prepay from home before you set sail and before the amount goes up. So you're already booked, so you're locked into the old one. Prepay before it goes up, save some money.
Now, what about packing?
Well, packing is always a big issue, and people are like, usually bringing way too much. But you need to know the dress codes for restaurants and other venues aboard the ship you're cruising on.
Right, and they will vary depending on how the cruise line is set up. So, in other words, Norwegian, which is freestyle, you can wear whatever you want, whenever you want, but they still have a specific code of dress, such as no ripped jeans, for example. Right. Moving on to another policy that might be important for you to look into is you need to know the policy on age requirements for drinking alcohol.
That's right.
Sometimes in the States, the typical age would be 21, but in Europe and other parts of the world, it is a different age. So check those out depending on where you are going. And speaking of age requirements...
It's age requirements for everything, because you have to know the age requirement to actually book a cruise. And in most cases, you have to be 21 years and older to actually book a cruise. And in a lot of these cruise lines, if you're traveling with children, they want the kids to be with someone 25 years old and older that they're going to be in a cabin with. A lot of times, families will book adjoining cabins. And they'll say, well, we're going to be in one cabin and the kids will be next to us. And there has to be Don't there? Yeah, there has to be
know.
an adult actually assigned to that cabin with the children. And speaking of children, how about the wee ones, the little wee bairns?
I think you're watching too much
Outlander. Yeah, the little wee bairns, the babies. No babies under 6 months. You have to be 6 months or older. You little
Well,
wee
your child has
yeah,
to
your
be.
your little wee one. Yeah.
And pregnant women cannot cruise if they're 24 weeks or more
Right.
along in their
You
pregnancy.
don't want to get to the cruise terminal and not know this, and you're 8 months pregnant. You're going to be denied.
Right.
And the next one is, of course, a biggie, because
Yeah.
it's the one we get the most complaints on when we see messages
Well,
on.
you need to know your cruise contract as it relates to any itinerary changes. And for the most part, I'm just going to tell them how it is, because that's how we roll. Most cruise contracts, if not all cruise contracts, will say in there someplace ports subject to change.
Right.
It's all dependent on the weather, the docking schedule,
Political discourse.
political discourse.
You don't want
there's
to
a lot
go to
that
an
varies
island that's in the middle of a major coup.
Exactly.
And they reserve the right to change the itineraries to the ports. And you're not going to get your money back. And that's the biggest complaint we get. It's like, I booked the cruise. This is the port I wanted to go to. It was top of my list. That's why I booked it. Now we're on the cruise. We just got a notice. We're not going there. We're going over here. I've already been there. I want my money back. Well, that is not going
it's not
to
going to
happen.
happen. You ate the steak just because the side
Right.
wasn't what you liked.
Right. That
You know?
potato wasn't the potato you wanted. Too bad.
Now, I can think of another thing that you really need to read your contract about, and that relates to burials.
Right, right. Burial at sea, scattering ashes of a loved one. You can't just pack grandpa in your suitcase and think you're going to board the ship and go to the upper deck, top deck like on Titanic, and just throw grandpa in the sea. You can't do that. You have to get permission.
You have to
need
get written,
expressed advanced permission prior to sailing, and I'm sure there will be, has to be crew members involved in there to make sure it is done properly.
Yep, every cruise line handles it a little bit
Yes.
differently. However, always there will be a crew member there with you, and they usually specify where you're allowed
Right.
to do this,
And how.
on what deck,
Right,
and in what position in the sea.
right.
I mean, they're very particular.
Nobody wants to get grandpa blowback. No.
You should look at your cruise contract as it relates to code of conduct.
Aye, aye, aye.
Now, when we're speaking of code of conduct, we're speaking of what happens if you behave badly, if you're using drugs, illegal drugs, abusing alcohol. And you might think party hardy, getting drunk is not abusing alcohol, but
Right.
that's what it is.
Right. You become a danger to yourself and to others. And you've all seen all the videos we've seen online. God, you're all watching the same ones we're watching of these crazy people who are falling down drunk, who accidentally fall off the ship. I mean, you can be a danger to yourself and others.
And don't think that it's 3 strikes you're out.
No.
In a lot of cases, they will give you another chance, but pull your ability to get alcohol.
Right.
And then if you become really a danger again, they'll just throw you off the ship.
Right. I mean, they have recourses like they can confine you to your cabin, take away your sail and sign card, your ship's card.
We've seen it happen.
Yeah. Jail on board. Booted off the ship. Nearest port. You're on your own trying to get home. It's all on you. So make sure you follow the cruise line's code of conduct.
Now let's talk about the last thing that we came up with on our list, which is
bringing our puppies. Can you bring your pets on the cruise with you? Do you have a therapy animal? Maybe, maybe not. It depends on the cruise line.
in a generality, I would say that you're not allowed to bring your pets,
Right.
but you'll be allowed to bring a therapy animal in most situations.
And the cruise line will spell out exactly the certifications, licensing, and whatever is needed for that animal.
And I have a caveat to this too, because when you're looking into cruising with a service animal,
Right.
you need to look into what the ports allow.
Right.
Because very often that service animal will not be allowed
No.
to disembark the ship.
Right, right. And you're going to have to leave that animal in your cabin.
And that's also in your cruise
Right.
contract. So take a minute.
Right.
Sit down, read your cruise contract. I know it's long and boring and
It
8
is.
to 10 pages long, but you will find some very interesting information
Right.
in there.
And you're all excited with, oh my God, I just booked a cruise, but please read the fine print.
It is so important to know all of these before you book your cruise. Cruise lines can be very,
Yeah.
very different with these policies.
And it behooves you, word of the day again, behooves you to know what you're getting into. So, thanks for joining us, hopefully for another exciting video that we did. And remember, don't just watch our videos. Become a regular Cruising with Wheels family member and click that subscribe button.
Don't be a dingling. Hit that bell for automatic notifications of when our videos go live and when we go live every other Sunday here on YouTube. Also, check us out
That's
on
right.
Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat.
Snapchat.
And remember to always
Travel safe.
and cruise often.